In these documents, we uncovered a secret internal cost-cutting campaign that essentially is targeting a growing financial burden for the company, the treatment of thousands of children with autism around the country. The company says that they are actually preventing new providers from joining their networks and terminating existing ones who are already in the network. And what happens is that once these networks become smaller, it is very difficult for families to find clinicians who can provide this therapy for their children.
We're learning that there is rage in regard to our broken healthcare system, and that rage is felt among Americans across the political spectrum. And some recent reporting by ProPublica reporter Annie Waldman, who you just heard from, gives us a sense as to why that rage exists. She just broke an explosive story about how UnitedHealthcare carried out a secret cost-cutting directive that denied coverage to children with autism. Now, ProPublica obtained UnitedHealthcare's playbook, which was developed by Optum. Optum is basically the division of UnitedHealthcare that focuses on mental health care benefits for United. Now, while Optum's own internal reports acknowledge that something known as applied behavior analysis is the absolute gold standard therapy to treat children with autism, the cost of covering this care has skyrocketed thanks to the climbing numbers of kids getting diagnosed with autism. Now, experts say greater awareness and improved screening have contributed to a four-fold increase in the past 2 decades, from 1 in 150 to 1 in 36, which is shockingly high. So as more and more kids get diagnosed with autism, obviously health insurance companies have a larger financial burden in offering the coverage for the mental health, therapies that these kids would need. Now, the number of its Medicaid patients accessing the specialized therapy has increased by about 20% over the past year, with expenses rising about $75 million year on year. So Optum is pursuing market-specific action plans to limit children's access to the treatment, the report said. Now, before we continue, I just want to be very clear. Anyone who's going to try to come at us with this, oh, well, it's now more costly to treat children with autism because there's a lot more children who are diagnosed. So what can they do? They have such small margins. They don't have small margins, okay? You want to talk about profits here? Okay, Optum's parent company, UnitedHealth Group, earned $22 billion in net profits, not revenue, net profits last year alone.
All of that could have gone towards treating you. Instead, it went to their profits and their bottom line. So look, I have a general point to make here that I need you to understand about this story and every story about health insurance. Under this system, things will only get worse. So that's not just general pessimism. I'm actually an enormously optimistic person. It's a factual certainty. And the reason for that is the markets are always pushing companies to get better and better at maximizing profit. So the only way that health insurance can maximize profit more is by charging you more and providing less services. The services are their costs, what they charge you is their revenue, right? And the profit is the difference between the two. In order to increase the profit, they must keep charging you more, finding every way they can to charge you more, and finding every way to deny you coverage. So like this is the tip of the iceberg. If we allow this system to continue, they will start taking away more and more of your coverage, and they will burden you with more and more costs until they find the place where the American people are just a little bit above their breaking point, where they're like almost at revolution. And then we already had this. It was called denying you for pre-existing conditions. So that made people so furious that they had to do a release valve, and they passed Obamacare, which was thought up by the Heritage Foundation, a right-wing pro-corporate think tank.
Yep.
Let's get rid of pre-existing condition thing because this thing's gonna blow, okay? So health insurance is going to do this for decades on end, and they're gonna crunch you, and we're gonna lose more and more people to this brutal, ridiculous system, not built to care about our health, but built for profit at the expense of our health.
I mean, like, what's the point of paying these insanely expensive premiums, right? Whether you're talking about homeowners insurance, health insurance, car insurance, pay month after month after month after month. And the second you might need them, they find excuses to deny your claims, okay?
When it's a privatized system, they're always going to do that.
Yep.
They're always going to try to deny your claims. They're always going to make it as hard as humanly possible for you to get the claim, for you to get the money, for you to get the coverage. And when it's health, it might be one thing if your home is destroyed and it's destroyed your finances. But when it's healthcare, your life is literally on the line, or your kids' lives might be on the line. And this system says, yes, but the profits of UnitedHealthcare and the other companies are way more important.
The shareholders.
Than the life of your children.
The shareholders are the most important people on the planet when it comes to privately run, businesses like this. And by the way, privately run businesses are all hunky-dory when we're talking about, things that you don't need to survive. When it comes to healthcare, introducing a profit motive and having a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders over patient care is a big problem. And that's what we're seeing right here. So how are they pursuing this cost-cutting mechanism? What are they doing exactly? Well, some of their market-specific action plans include dropping therapy providers from their network altogether. So they are denying them care for pre-existing conditions. In this case, we're talking about autistic children who have the pre-existing condition of autism. And they're not denying them healthcare coverage overall, they're just dropping the very providers that would provide the therapy that these autistic children need. And so the company said it aims to prevent new providers from joining the network and terminate existing ones, including cost outliers. And when an insurer decides to drop providers, we all know what that means. When the provider that you need to get treatment from, or in this case therapy from, is no longer in network, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket. And in this case, when it comes to this particular therapy, that could cost tens of thousands of dollars every single year. And so the company has calculated that in some states, this reduction could impact more than 2/5 of its ABA therapy provider groups in network and up to 19% of its patients in therapy. And by the way, making matters worse, the way that they're carrying out this policy specifically targets the poorest and most vulnerable children who are actually covered through the company's state-controlled Medicare plans. And states often pay private insurers basically like a fixed amount of money in order to provide patient care for low-income patients in particular, right? And so when the patient's annual costs do not go over the amount that's been allocated for the entire year, the insurance companies are able to pocket it. And that creates a perverse incentive, right? It creates an incentive to take the money, provide less care or coverage for the providers, and then they get to maximize how much money the insurance companies keeps for themselves.
This is all elementary. So that's why when people in media talk about, or in politics talk about, these companies need to do better, that doesn't mean anything at all. That makes it sound like it's a moral question. And in a macro sense, it's a moral question because this is an immoral system. But within this system, they're never ever going to make a decision of, hey, let's cover more because it's the more moral thing to do. And let's choose to make less money for our shareholders. Because if you make that choice and it's written down somewhere, you will be immediately fired. And that's not like a theoretical thing or a maybe thing. There is no CEO who wouldn't get fired if they told their shareholders, I am choosing not to maximize your profits. I am choosing to do the moral thing and to give our customers more, etc. No, you'll be removed from the building, okay? So this is an absurd conversation. And to my right-wing friends who think that everything is communism the minute you mention government, guys, we're not talking about privatizing jeans or burgers or cars. You want to make all the maximum profit you can on jeans, and that's your business, man. If people want to buy your brand, that's up to them, right? So we're totally fine with that. You want to add private health insurance on top of universal health care, no problem, okay? But to say, no, the actual health insurance that we all need if something goes terribly wrong, especially for people who can't afford it, that shouldn't be the government's responsibility to protect their lives. We should throw them to the wolves of the free market system. And the free market system in that case doesn't care about their lives. It cares about profit. And they make more profit if they treat you less. It's an inarguable point. It's the same thing with cops, firefighters, and the military. The core job of the government is to protect its civilians. And the same exact thing applies to health insurance.
The final thing I'll say about this is, look, Optum, by doing this, might be breaking federal laws. There is a federal law known as the Mental Health Parity Act. And essentially what that does is it requires healthcare insurers to provide the same access to mental health care as they do to physical care. And so if they're specifically targeting this particular therapy that helps autistic children, well, they're obviously not treating physical care the same as mental care. And so ProPublica even previously reported a story involving UnitedHealthcare paying a multi-million-dollar settlement after getting in trouble for essentially targeting therapy coverage in a way that violates this federal law. So it's unclear at this moment whether there are violations of said federal law in regard to what they're doing with this cost-cutting plan. But nonetheless, whether or not they're breaking the law, what they're doing here is really hurting children who need behavioral therapy in order to get better, in order to be part of society and not struggle as much as they're struggling with autism at the moment. And obviously autism is a spectrum. We're talking about people on a severe end of the spectrum where they're unable to control emotions, unable to go to school normally and interact with other kids. It's just absolutely heartbreaking and devastating. And so that's what we're dealing with here. And this is what explains the anger that people are feeling in the country, guys. I can't say that enough. It's really a nonpartisan rage that we're seeing that doesn't justify harming people or assassinating executives, but that rage is real and something needs to be done to fix this broken healthcare system.
And when Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders recently talked about that rage, now ex-Biden officials are going on cable news and blaming Sanders and Warren. And they're saying, how dare you? This is instigating people. Say to everyone how great this healthcare system is and how great our donors, the health insurance companies are, right? No, we're not gonna say it. It's so easy to say that murder was reprehensible. And that's not a thing you say lightly, 100% reprehensible. Violence is never the answer. But no, corporate goons in Washington, we are not going to kiss the ass of your donors while people die just because you want to go and get more campaign contributions. Not remotely interested in it. And okay, so that's the Democrats. By the way, the Republicans, they are talking about autism, about how vaccines might cause it, when every study in the world has shown that that's not the case. So look, Robert Kennedy Jr. is a wild card, right? So if he's the head of HHS, those vaccines might be an issue, but who knows? A wild card might look into this too. I don't know. I know the establishment wouldn't. The establishment would be like, oh, our donors are making money. And again, Democrat or Republican, they're like, yes! But hey, 76,000 people a year died just because they don't have health insurance, let alone the people that die because they don't get the coverage, even if they have health insurance. And establishment Republicans and Democrats would say, did the check clear? Then I don't care at all. So what is RFK Jr. gonna do, if anything? We don't know, the jury's out. But if he takes this issue and turns it into vaccines, then we're screwed either way.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.